Have you ever left a coaching session feeling a little defeated, like you did all the talking and your client barely moved the needle? Then today's episode, I'm going to be sharing the one thing you can do to increase the results and the effectiveness of your coaching session. Hey, coaches, it's Amanda. Welcome to part 3 of the 4-part series we've been diving into called Momentum. And I built this series to help you build momentum in both your skills as a business owner, but also in your skills as a coach. And actually, today's episode is more focused on the skills as a coach. At the end of the day, the most important thing you will ever do as a coach is coach your clients. And the reason being is your entire business is built on your ability to create results with your clients. And when you do a really amazing job at that, guess what? They either renew because there's so much power in that, and or they refer people to you, right? And let's talk business. A really important element of business that I kind of didn't realize in the beginning years is that it takes a lot more energy, both physical energy and time, but also financial time to go out and bring in new clients. What's more effective is nurturing the ones we have into renewals and referrals. And in fact, referral clients are just the best because they bring in people that are very like minded. It's a fast track to trust. And so it's so effective. And those people tend to have a higher lifetime value inside your business. And I didn't even know the difference in that in the early stages. You might not know either. And hopefully that's educating you. And so today's episode is really hanging on this mastery piece. I just want you to be a better coach. And so today we're diving into this notion of the really what I think to be the most important element of an effective coaching session. And that is your ability to ask good questions, powerful questions. And I want to pre-frame this is I was having some great conversations. I have a beautiful corporate client. They are in the real estate space, and I actually coach them. They're leaders on how to be coaches. These leaders have been great at selling homes, but the struggle is they actually they don't have experience in coaching, and so they have opportunities each month where they have one-to-one coaching sessions with their people, with their agents, and that goal is to support them. And so one of the struggles consistently that I hear from them and other coaches is I just want to tell my people what to do and like go do it, and then they don't do it. And why is that the problem? And that's because we're all wired differently, right? And so I want to go back and just straddle kind of this discussion around the difference between coaching and consulting. First off, consulting is literally just like, hey, you got a problem, let me tell you what to do. And for many of you, you might fall under that. And everything we talk about actually on this podcast is pretty effective for that. And instead of when we go into coaching conversations like this. But what I find is often the reason people identify more as consultants is like, I don't want to have responsibility for people creating results. So I'm going to tell them what they need to do, and I'm just going to go hide. I just don't want a part of it. And for me, that's a little bit of a lack of service, because what I think we all can agree upon is it's not the advice we need. Often it's the support and the implementation and the proximity to ask questions. And that's where coaching comes in. Coaching, for me, in my opinion, is coaching is providing an opportunity to really ask a series of great questions that helps your client unlock the answers that are already inside of them. And the key is that this builds self autonomy, it builds trust, it builds intuition, which we talked about before in this episode or in this 4-part series about intuition in yourself. And so sometimes we straddle the line. I know inside Best Damn Coach, I'm constantly straddling the line because often people are like, just tell me the best way. And so I'm always reframing like, this is the best way for me, but it may not be for you because I have my own strengths and weaknesses that are different. And so I want to talk about this secret weapon of effective question asking because I want you to be a better coach. And when you walk away feeling freaking awesome from a coaching session, then there's so much confidence and momentum that are built. So for me, questions are key because they empower clients to discover their own truth. And when they figure out their own truth, it's sticky. It hangs out. They have this breakthrough that it's like, I did this. I know the answers. And that begets more momentum. I know you've been somewhere before where somebody's just told you what to do. It didn't quite sit well. You went out and tried to do a thing. You're like, it's just not working for me. Giving answers also creates dependence. And like, we kind of think like, well, that's cool. If they're dependent on me, they still need me. They want me. That's true. But at the end of the day, I don't necessarily think that's like why we're here. I don't want codependent clients. I want my clients to feel like they have their own answers. And so for me, asking questions actually builds agency. And that is lifelong. That is true transformation. And so for me, coaching in general is about transformation and not information. And then I think about so many times when I've watched the faces of my clients when they've come to me and said, I just like your idea. And I can ask them this powerful question back. And I literally see like the light bulbs, the smile, the entire nonverbal facial shift that happens when they realize they have the answer and they're frivolously, writing things down. I'm like, freaking, that is so cool. That was one of my favorite things about Best Damn Coach Live because we're in the flesh and they would raise their hands and they would ask me these questions and they are seeking that I just tell them the answer. And there are times where that's appropriate, but most of the time, question asking is going to help us get even more awesome at what we do. So I want to just really shift the needle for you and talk about some key elements or what can make powerful questions happen for you. And really, I want you to put the hat on of curiosity around this conversation. So, first, what we want to do is make sure that there's a structure and flow to our coaching session. Now, if you don't have that blueprint, then hit me up. I have a $27 access to an amazing blueprint along with white labeled show notes that you can pull. I'm not going to focus on that in that episode, but if that rings for you, just shoot me a DM on Instagram. I'll give you the link. $27, change your life. But you have to know the goal of the session because here's where I often find the leading cause of lack of agency in the call or this like disconnect. It's like you already make assumptions about what the client needs before they step into a session. So, one of the critical things to run an effective coaching session with really great question asking is to first define the goal. Like, what do they need? What do they want? That should be something at the beginning of the session that's like, what do you want to walk away from today? What do you want to walk away with? What do you need? What's the tangible takeaway? Because now what's happened is I've locked in onto exactly what they're coming in with and exactly where they think they need to go. And I can run through my filter and go, oh, I don't think that's great. And we can readjust the goal collectively. But if they tell me the goal, then I'm going to ask the right questions, the better questions to get them to where they need to be. Yeah. And this is like such a critical element of what needs to happen for you to be effective, with the client specifically. So that's number one. The next shift that I believe will create major momentum in your sessions is to move away from yes or no questions. It's kind of like when I use this example often. When I pick up my teenager from school, I realize quickly, how was your day? Good. Did you have fun? Yes. No, not effective. Doesn't create conversation. Instead, what I want to say is, what was the best part of your day today? What kind of conversations did you have? Anything that's going to create an opportunity to give them more than a yes or no and open up sentences. So we want to shift into understanding that your client, it's your job to actually ask the questions that lead to expansive discussion inside of your actual coaching session. And so one thing that I think is really important is you should not be doing the talking the whole time. The client should be the one doing almost all the talking. And what's happening through the discourse, right, through the talking, is they're actually solving their own problems. How many times I can't count how many times I've been on a coaching session and somebody has just talk, and they're like, I guess all I need to do is just work it through with you. I'm like, exactly. That's like the best coaching ever. Right. And so what we want to do is make sure we shift into those questions that are moving the needle for them to get rid of the conscious block and remove the critical wedge to the unconscious. And what I mean by that is they're storing all this stuff unconsciously, but they're so focused on what is here and now that they can't quite like move out of that. So what we're trying to do is get rid of all this stuff that's top of mind and then allow the unconscious stuff to surface. And we do that by asking questions. Because when we ask questions, they go inside and they have to retrieve information. They have to find their own answers. And like I said before, when they find their own answers, this is totally sticky. And I love that so much. Okay. So again, open-ended questions, creating a really clear goal or outcome for the session. The other element of effective coaching or question asking is that you are seeking clarity for them. And so what they really need often is just clarity in the conversation. So we want to ask questions that bring that up. So the whole time, what we have to do and what we have to keep in check, and I honestly think this happens before the session is beginning, is I have to get neutral. So I have to be a blank canvas. I actually have to toss whatever happened in our past coaching session to the side because she, the client, or he is new. They've had a week or two. They've gone through a lot of stuff. And so this isn't a time to like pull that in. So that's like the first thing is I want to be rooting around in the beginning to find out what they're bringing to the table right now. And so if I have an agenda right away, then I am not going to support the client to the best of my ability. It's like when you're in a discussion with your spouse or an argument and they're talking, but it's like, wah, wah, wah. You don't even hear anything because you've already got the rebuttal. And if you've already got the rebuttal, you're missing what's present in front of you to create massive breakthroughs for your clients. So you want to have this hat of curiosity, these questions, and they're very simple, like, tell me more, right? God, it's such a powerful thing. Why? If you were to know, like, what would you do? There's so many powerful questions. I have a document, by the way, that I'll drop in the show notes. You can grab it at Amanda-Walker/questions of the 10 questions that I just use all the time that help create this clarity inside of your coaching sessions. Okay, number 4, breaking down how effective questions can lead the session is that you need to make sure that your questions align with them as a human and their values. So sometimes the questions we actually need to load up for them are helping them get back to like, okay, what's the most important thing for you right now? What matters most to you right now? Especially when I'm coaching in business. We talked a lot about running through this filter on number 2 of this series is you have to run it through your priority filter. They have to know what the most important thing is for them. If the most important thing is weight loss, then we should coach them to that value. If the most important thing is their family, we should coach them to that value. But we need to make sure that they know what that is. So if we're all over the place and they're like, this happens a lot for coaching. They'll kind of brain dump to me at the beginning and they want to do all these things. And I'm like, okay, let's figure out which one of these things feels the most relevant for you right now. What matters most to you right now? Then we can spend time going deep and not wide. Because if you are all over the place, if you've ever left a coaching session feeling totally deflated, or you've ever left a coaching session like, oh crap, do I did I really do a good job? Or the client left with no clarity, then the thing that matters most here is doing a better job of asking these questions and asking consistent questions. So those are kind of the 4 elements of asking questions that I think are key. But I want to talk about like a few things to avoid, some of the traps. Some traps, it's kind of like you're a lawyer. If you've ever heard like, don't lead the witness. Same thing. We don't want to lead the client and start them. And this is an area where I've had to work a lot and still do. It's like, don't you think, or what if you, right? Because if you say, don't you think you should actually work on this first? Then they're questioning themselves. Don't you think you should actually put your energy here? Then they're like, oh shoot, should I? Right? Or another trap to avoid is just advice disguised as questions. So it could be like, man, don't you think you should really work on your freebie first? It's like, oh, should I? Or don't you think you should really charge more? Crap, should I? And so we want to make sure that the questions are clear and specific for them. And the third avoid is just a million questions, like rapid fire questions with no space to reflect. So don't be afraid of the pause. Like that super awkward silence. When I was a teacher, I loved this. Like I would just ask this question and I would walk the room and there would be silence and silence and silence. They're working on it and I would just wait. There's so much power in that pause while they're reflecting and thinking on things themselves. And so when you are coaching, the session should be about the client speaking more than you leading. And the most powerful way for them to have the greatest breakthrough is by you asking questions that continue to help them get rid of all the conscious stuff, get into the unconscious, and build that agency that's so critical for long-term success. And so if I were to give you a homework piece from this episode, I would encourage you to just like grab a question. You could go grab my download if you want, or just one question. And in a place in your coaching session where you would typically want to be like, go do this thing, is like ask a question instead and just watch what shifts. Or maybe jot down 2 separate questions on 2 sticky notes at your desk and just have them top of mind. So you're like, okay, these are 2 questions that I can keep in my back pocket that are going to be a game changer for my client's long-term success. Because the goal here is building momentum comes from establishing confidence and trust in yourself and belief in yourself as a coach. Man, I want you to show up with just like the pressure off. You don't have to show up and know everything. You get to show up and ask questions. Because the more questions you ask, the more effective the coaching session will be, the more the client can see their power, their agency. And then your job is to come in at the end and give that homework. What are the next steps? Help with that implementation, that proximity, that accountability that they are absolutely asking you for. I know you are an amazing coach. And you can work smarter and not harder, which is for me a really powerful piece to this, because great coaches don't give all the answers. They just ask better questions, and that's going to build massive momentum for you. So again, if you have questions about coaching, an area you feel stuck in your coaching sessions, a place where you lack confidence, then I encourage you to come get coached with me on our live free workshop where I'm going to coach you through any struggle in your business. Again, you can sign up for that at amanda-walker.com/get coached. And if you have any follow-up questions, I'd love to chat with you. Send me a DM on the IG. My handle is awalkmyway. And until next week, go coach them up.